Okay, I think we're on.
Welcome to Southern Utah Community. This is Keith Couch and Melinda.
Good one.
Good one. There you go. Just want to make sure you know your own last name.
With Remax First and Kelch Construction.
Kelch Construction. I'm a general contractor, and Melinda is a realtor in the electric home division here at Remax First. Get that right? Remax First?
Yes, Remax First.
Remax First. We want to talk to you about something. We want to give you heads up about a cultural norm here in Utah that is not talked about, and we want to talk about it.
Maybe we're going to rub some feathers the opposite way today, but I think this is something everybody should know.
This is something you should know about Utah. If you know it in advance, it will save you 2 to 3 years of what on earth is going on here. But in Utah, people are cheap. The culture here is very, very, very cheap. They don't want to pay you for what you're worth. I don't know where this came from. We can't figure it out, but it is a cultural norm in Utah. For example, if you're in San Diego, Arizona, just about anywhere, and you want to charge for a service, people are more apt to pay that. But in Utah, people will say, typically will say, well, I can do that myself. And it's that self-help, I can do it myself attitude. And so what really has to happen is we have to say, well, if you can do it yourself, then why are you not doing it for yourself? That's the first question. The second question is if you were to do it for yourself, how much would you pay you?
Why don't...
How much are you really, if you were to do something for yourself, be your own realtor, be your own general contractor, be your own fix-it-man, whatever it may be, how much do you think you are worth?
I work for free.
I work for free.
No, it's funny, I was quite shocked that you said the word cheap, to be honest with you, but I noticed that a lot. You go to all these classes, and as a nurse, I was getting paid $27, $30 an hour. And then you come into an industry where it's a service provided industry, and people are upset if you're charging $30 an hour. I don't even have words for it.
We can't figure out where this came from, but in Utah, you're not worth what you're worth.
And I'm just telling you, people in Utah have money, and yes. It's interesting because when I work with clients outside of Utah and they come in from the West Coast or East Coast, they're all willing to know that you charge money, and people will be like, what do you charge? What do you charge? And so I think it's a mindset thing more than anything. I think that we're so used to helping out because Utah is the #1 state for philanthropy and humanitarianism, but we're so used to helping out.
But when you charge for it finally, they say, well, why can't you do that for free?
Right. Or, you're my best friend, so you should give me a discount at least.
Yeah.
I go to church with you.
So what happens is that the business world is kind of worked that way into itself. So rather than be honest and tell you what something's going to cost, because we don't tell you what it really costs here in Utah, we kind of lie, and we kind of say that, well, I can do that for this and I can do that for that, to tell you what you want to hear rather than tell you what really needs to be said. And so what happens is there's a lot of gullible people in Utah. I think Utah is probably the most gullible state or area culture in the world. I don't know why it is. So we're cheap, but we're gullible. I don't know where those two concepts fused. But if you want to understand Utah, you have to understand that we want to do it ourselves. We don't want to pay anyone else to do it. We're cheap and we're gullible. So.
It's been a rough day. Keith's world today.
I don't know if that's going to get us any work out there, but I figure that if we're honest and straight with you, then you'll hire us to either build a home or sell you a home here in Southern Utah.
Okay, so wait, we got to let you know what's kind of going on here. In the construction industry, back when my husband and I were doing it, there was an opportunity for us to bid a house that was a relative's. And when we bid it kind of high because we do cost plus. And what that means is You know, we want to make sure if you're getting a loan or a mortgage, you're going to be able to cover it if there's extra expenses. But if you can save your money somewhere in the process, then you save that money. A lot of contractors, we are not going to say names, will do a bid, right? And then at the end of that bid, if they saved money, they pocket that money and they charge that homeowner anyway. Well, we didn't run our construction company this way. Needless to say, we did not get this job because we were about $30,000 over the bidded job from a respectable guy in
Really
the community.
Right.
And he got the job. All right, that's fine. We explained that we could save you money in the long run, but this was how we bid it so that we made sure all your expenses were covered in case we ran into something or an issue. Well, yeah, about 4 weeks into the project, my husband got a call. This guy said that it's an add-on or an extra expense because he has to have hurricane clips.
Hurricane clips, yeah.
Hurricane clips are the law, people. You have to add those if that wasn't in your bid, but he didn't bid it because, you know, maybe they didn't want it. And then further in, it was, we got a call again, can you help us out? Because our contractor didn't include toilets. That's an added expense, by the way, if you want toilets, because I wasn't sure what kind of toilet you wanted, and maybe you wanted a bidet, maybe you wanted a purple one and an orange one, so I didn't include toilets. So now that's an added expense, and it's a change order because it wasn't part of the contract. The guy didn't include paint, and he didn't include cement for the driveway. And it ended up, my husband and I poured their driveway for free because they ran out of money because they didn't get a big enough loan.
Did I say we're gullible people? So what that means is that we will always take the cheapest cost on everything. That's just something here in Utah. I don't know where it came from, but they always want the cheapest cost, but then they get raked over the coals over time. I just bid a job. It was a very expensive job. And
a couple of million, right?
A couple of million. And I cited a major snafu in the home build that, without giving any details, the other builders didn't reveal this really costly problem that was part of the design.
Okay, and it wasn't just the builder, it was the architect.
The architect, the builders, nobody told the homeowner about this really costly problem. Well, I showed it to him, and then when he found out about it, he was upset. I mean, really, you know, very frustrated. So what we're trying to get to here, we wanted to help you understand how to find a really good service provider, either in real estate or construction or restoration, whatever it may be.
Mm-hmm.
That person is going to tell you the surprise up front. Here in Utah, we don't want surprises. We don't want to be told what's really the problem. We just want to have a lowball figure. We want it all rushed on the carpet, and it will pop up later.
Well, and what happens when it pops up later is later, after you've already signed the contract, after you've already started the build, after you get your final bill, and it's like $100,000 more than what you expected, especially in the high end. I'm not talking about a house that costs $100,000 to build, which doesn't happen in St. George, but you know, we're talking $1 million plus house, and then you get your final bill and it's $100,000 over the bidded price because, you know, you had these lumps and bumps along the way that could have been avoided at the very beginning. And I'll explain one more thing. We were doing a house when we first moved here, and the framer came in and framed right over the toilet hole because our plumber put the toilet hole in the wrong space. And so we went through with the architect and redesigned, but the framer failed to do his work and pull up the new plans, so he framed over the toilet hole. Well, when we called him back and was like, why did you do this? He said, well, that's what was according to plan. Don't you do that? I mean, there was no foresight or no, hey, there's a toilet hole in the middle of my wall, you know? And so my husband and I, with Keith, we sit down and we went through certain subs that we know can can foresee the future a little bit in their designs and in their workspace, as well as we know they're going to be honest, and we know that when we have an issue, we can resolve it without costing our homeowner a lot of money.
Right. And the trick to finding a good service provider in any industry, really in Utah, is that you'll find that those that want to pull one over your eyes, they want to do it quickly.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to spend the time to talk with you. They don't want to take your questions, and they're very impatient. But they give you what they call their best foot forward. And their best foot forward is appealing and it's polished.
They look great in their
It's
suit.
It's like Frankie Avalon. He's always the life of the party. Everybody wanted to be around Frankie Avalon. But when you sit with the person long enough and you really start to ask them questions, you irritate them, then their true colors reveal themselves. So when you come to Utah, you got to have a lot of questions to your service providers, drill them, and if they still want to service you and they're very patient with you and they answer all your questions, you've got a genuine person on board with you. But if they're just a pitch artist and they want to appeal to your gullibility, oh, I can do that for Brett. It shouldn't cost any more money.
Everything
You'll be okay. Just sign with me. I've done this with a lot of people. They're going to be great. If you want to call my bishop, I'll give you his phone number. He'll vouch for you. If they kind of give you that
Wait,
kind of,
I am the bishop.
oh, that's right, I am the bishop.
Okay, I'm sorry.
We won't go there.
We'll probably. What is that comedian? He's always saying this, apologizing to the new guinea pigs.
I can make fun of that culture because I am a member of the LDS faith, so I have no problem poking fun at that. But we are gullible people. We always want to get the lowest price on stuff. But the only way through that cultural myopic structure that's out there right now is to have more patience in your communication with people, a lot more social discourse. So don't let somebody, here's something to understand. Most young men and women who are in the LDS church, they go on missions. So when they go on missions and they're out there for 2 years, they're trying to sell and pitch something that's very difficult to pitch, the joining of a new faith and to adopting a new faith. And they get very good at it after 2 years. So when they come home, guess what happens? That salesmanship goes into business. It goes into a lot of stuff.
I hire them because they're great salesmen.
They're great salesmen. They're great at stuff. But what happens is the concept of ethics kind of gets pushed aside because we want to make the sell. That's called business. But what happens is that it appeals to the lowest common gullible denominator as a way to get the sell. And you have to be very careful with that. It's a fundamental problem in our culture, and I have no problem saying that. And if anyone doubts me and wants to criticize me, go ahead. I think for every one person who doesn't like me saying that, there's 9 out there privately saying, boy, he's saying the truth.
Well, it's a quiet thing. And, and it's, when people ask me coming into our community and want to know about it, right? They come in, we're showing them houses and everything else. That's a phenomenal question. I mean, it comes up 99 out of 100 times. Right. What is it like living here? What is it like with the Mormons? How do you get along? Is it a weird culture? And I have to tell you that we have a very clean city with low crime because of that culture. Right. So there's positive things to it as well. But, let's say you come here on vacation and you go to Zion National Park and you're like, hey, I love this. I want to retire here. And you get online, because this goes with the real estate industry too. You get online and you're looking for that top producer, that guy that's closing 100 deals a year, and you call thinking you're going to talk to that guy. You're not. You will never meet that guy. You will never meet that girl. Right. You never, ever meet the top producers, because those top producers are actually sitting in their office on the phone doing prospecting cold calls for 8 to 9 hours a day. They do not ever put you in their car.
You're not going to write the contract. You're not going to be able to get access to them. It's kind of like when you go into a restaurant, you don't ask them who's the top producer in the restaurant. Well, it's Joe Smo over there, and he's got 36 tables. Well, he's subcontracted out to a bunch of other busboys to service underneath him, and you're not going to get the service you need. A good waiter can handle maybe 7 tables at once. A bad waiter can handle still sufficiently, maybe 4 tables at once.
Mhm.
Very rarely do you see someone handle 10 or 12 tables at once very effectively. There are some talented waiters and waitresses who can,
They're all women.
and I was one of them. I was a good waiter back in the day. I could be a bartender. I could have multiple drinks going on at once at a time. There's a lot of talent with regard to that. You have to have hooks and pegs in your brain. You have to be able to look at things and roll through them quite effectively. But what I'm getting at is a good service provider doesn't stock the deck so heavily
Right.
that they can't service you.
They can't service you personally.
Right.
So with
They have to
that
tell a
said-
lie if they have to appeal to your gullibility if they're overbooked.
Well, and I've worked with agents like that. When I first came in, I worked on a team where, you know, it was them, their sign, their everything, and us little worker bees down here working all day long, showing houses, things like that. I learned a big valuable lesson. But 9 times out of 10, I was always making an excuse as to why they weren't meeting the person on the sign, right? I was saying, oh, she's busy, you know, she's sick, whatever, just to get my face in the door. And that lasted, honestly, 2 months. I couldn't do it. I could not do it. Look, people, if you don't want good service, go somewhere else. If you want the best service, come to me. And that's where it is. I lasted 2 months in that industry, in that realm of the industry. And that is not who I want to be, nor is that who I want the people who work with me in my division. I don't like that. So the question is then, how do you find us? How do you find the people who really have the heart for service, who really have your best interest in mind, not the best interests of themselves, because I've seen that too. I've seen agents come in and go, you know what, we got a really good offer. I know it's not worth it, but it's cash. Let's go ahead and close the deal. No, if it's cash and it's too high of an offer, they should not just close the deal just because they're going to get more money.
Right.
And I see that over and over and over again because, you know, we have to put milk in our refrigerators, and I'm going to use that as an analogy all the time because the truth is majority of real estate agents in this town only make $20,000 a year.
Right.
So, you know, we have to put milk in the refrigerator.
We
and
have a lot-
sometimes those lines get really blurred. I mean, yeah, it's maybe a little unethical, but you know, if I wing it a little bit, it's not going to be that big of a deal. But to me, it is a huge deal. It's a huge deal. I cannot do that.
You're going to find in Utah that in a lot of other parts of the country, while there might be jobs available because of maybe some manufacturing or some plant or something like that, we don't have a lot of manufacturing. We don't have a lot of plants. The real jobs in Utah are in the service sector,
Mm-hmm.
and some in the technology, but mostly in government, education, and the service sector. So because there's not a lot of opportunity for jobs here, people have to be innovative to create a job. And you'll see people doing all kinds of jobs.
That's why
That
we
is-
lead the nation in small business.
Yeah, we lead the nation in new business startups because people have no other resource. They have no other means of making a living, so they have to get in the service industry. So you're going to find that a lot of the people here are self-employed. It's just a lot of people are self-employed. And that goes with compounds the whole issue with gullibility and servicing and pitching and kind of telling you what you want to hear.
Being ethical.
Being ethical. And it's not that we're deviant in our natures, it's just that's just the nature of the culture in which we live. And I don't think a lot of people mean to do harm. They just think that's what good business is.
So
It's not.
Well, and I want to rephrase a little bit. What happened with Keith was he found an issue in his bid. He found the issue. He corrected the issue in his bid. His bid was more expensive than 2 other contractors because those 2 other contractors did not see the issue, or if they did see the issue, they didn't speak up. Because in tradition, it's like, okay, if I don't speak up, but I've got you under contract, and then I find the issue, and then I say this is wrong, I'm going to make an extra $100,000 off this
Right.
deal. So, you know, when you come proactive and say this is the issue, and your other guys didn't find it, and you still don't get that bid, knowing 9 times out of 10, it's because that person just What is too cheap?
Well, it's kind of like you want the job, and so if you tell the client that there's a possible problem with this automobile or this piece of land or this home or whatever it may be, if you were to say what the problem is, then you're less apt to get the job. Well,
Right.
We don't operate like that.
No.
We're going to tell you what the problem is, and if you still want to hire us, great, we'd love to do that. But we get all the surprises after the fact.
Yeah, like, okay, I'm showing
Before
a
the
lot.
fact, not after.
Showing a lot, and I have soils issues. I know it's too cheap, right? It's very inexpensive. The lot is priced wrong. Well, I call, no, I don't think there's soil issues. We had a thing months ago, and it wasn't with me. It was with another realtor, and blah blah blah. But okay, but your price is half the price. I know as a realtor that I'm going to tell my client there's probably soil issues. Let's go ahead and be proactive about that and figure this out, right? Now, other agents wouldn't do that. Other agents would say, oh, that agent said, no, it's no big deal. Let's just buy the lot. And then now my homeowner is getting ready to build and will be, not mine, theirs, because they just took the buyer from me because they're going to sell that lot. And now he's $100,000 in debt because now he has to do it on Pierce because there's soil issues that nobody told him about because it just was swept under the rug.
Yeah, we sweep things under the rug because so many of us are self-employed. We live paycheck to paycheck, and we just say what we need to say a lot of the time to get the job. So you have to ask a lot of questions. Give it more time.
Be patient and ask questions.
Be patient and ask questions.
Watch the
right.
demeanor of the person you're speaking to.
If they're honest and they are a little bit not polished in salesmanship, they're more trusting than a person who's overly polished and willing to give you the best pitch of their life.
Mm-hmm.
Be very, very careful of good salesmanship. It doesn't mean good service. It doesn't mean good quality. It just means they know how to close the deal. That's it, for the most part.
And in sales,
Yeah.
what is it? It's about closing the deal.
In sales,
That's
it's
why
all
you're
about
here.
closing the deal,
Close that
close the deal. And Utahns are really good at closing the deal. In fact, we have some of the best salesmen in the world here in Utah. In fact, most of us, 80% of us here, are salesmen of one shape or another. That's why we're so gullible, because we have so many good salesmen here. So that's the real nuts and bolts with this culture. If you really want to understand Utah, is that 80% of us are really good salespeople, and you have to be prepared for that. Because it's the #1 state in the nation for multi-level startups. If you were to start up, do a multi-level startup, you start it in Utah.
Yeah.
And
because
we have a lot of multi-level startups.
It takes the wrinkles away or
Yeah.
makes me lose weight. I'm on board.
So you have to be very, very, we're good at pitching, we're good at selling. A lot of advertising firms here in Utah, a lot of marketing firms here in Utah. There's dozens and dozens of multi-level startups here in Utah, from Stamp Up to Oils, you name it, they're all here. So when you come to Utah,
be prepared.
I gave it the office. I've already got that. I've got a client. I've got someone who represents me on that already.
Okay, but no, if it really works, come talk to me.
Yeah, if that doesn't work, just come talk with us and we'll tell you what the skinny is. So we hope that really helps you. We don't mean to paint our culture in a disparaging way. We want to get you
have to be educated
and up to speed and what the problem is here.
Now, as we're educating, you realize that we work here, we live here, and we try to get people to move here because we do really love it.
Yeah.
You just have to know what you're in for.
Yeah, we love our Milky Way. It's milky at night. We love our national parks and national monuments. We love our open air, fresh air. I was out in the park last night. I was helping with a client look at a home last night, and it was so quiet. You looked up in the stars and just a crisp, clear evening. I know you don't get that in Los Angeles. You don't get that in Florida. You don't get that anywhere but here. So we just want to give you the heads up on everywhere you move, whether it's Vermont or North Dakota, you're going to run into the cultural mores. We're just giving you the heads up that we're all salesmen here in Utah.
We know how to do that. Speaking of, I'm so excited tonight because you reminded me of that. There's a big concert tonight. What is it, 80s Rock Fest or something like that? I'm so excited. It's like big hair band. night. I'm gonna have to go put some cool clothes on and go to the concert.
If you have any questions, just post them at the bottom. We'll be happy to reply back to them. But
Yes, ask questions.
ask
Questions are great.
We'll post them on there. We'll keep doing this, and we'll tell you the skinny on Utah
Okay.
best we can.
And seriously, ask the deep questions too, if you have any, because we want to address that. We want to make sure that we give you our opinions, because it's important. Coming from the nursing industry, the education industry, now in a sales industry, I mean, we have a wide variety. Plus, we both have kids that we've raised here. So ask anything.
Yeah, ask anything. We are not ashamed. We'll talk about it.
I am an open book.
So.
And it's sad. My dad always told me your mouth is going to get you into trouble.
I regret often that I've spoken, but never that I've kept silent. So.
All right, are we done then?
We're done. We'll see you next week.
All right, see you next week.
Okay.